rated Ice Time. So listen responsibly.
You are listening to Conscious Fever, hosted by Carl Price.
She'll cause a scene. 4 cars deep, we'll come through on a late night. Chicken spot, wings and fries, we call that a day night. Lights on, sold out, I don't have no stage right. Knew that I was built for this forever, ever, ever.
You are listening to Conscious Fever, hosted by Carl Price.
We ride bands, 10 times 10, all my friends, this for real.
Hey, good evening. Welcome to Conscious Fever here on Ice Entertainment Television and Conscious Fever Radio. I'm back after a long hiatus. I hope that's okay with you all. And I want y'all to chat with me tonight. Because I'm going to make a special announcement tonight. It's kind of official, but unofficial, kind of unofficial, then official, then unofficial announcement of my candidacy for office, and a serious office here in Jefferson County. Yeah, getting back into this politic thing, and I hope y'all would join me doing that. Now, I don't know if y'all can hear me. I hope y'all can hear me. I have no idea what I'm doing tonight other than talking about public office and the responsibility of a public office. So, yeah, hey, Gina Goff, thank you so much. I've been missing you as well. But I'm glad you tuned in tonight because you're one of my former colleagues, and I had a special announcement tonight. The announcement is one that I take very, very serious. So I want y'all to stick around tonight. If you want to ask me some questions, post your comments, feel free to do that. Thank you for all the love emojis. I love you guys too. But listen, I'm running for office. This is going to be my official, unofficial announcement to you all tonight. I want y'all to hear from the horse's mouth and not from Courier Journal or some other media outlet. Yes, Carl Price has filed to run for Jefferson County Attorney here in Louisville, Kentucky. For those of you who are outside of Jefferson County and outside of the state of Kentucky, that means I am running for the office of District Attorney here in Louisville. Yes, Breonna Taylor's hometown. A district attorney. So listen, I see a question already. I don't know why these things just go away. Okay, now I can see a little bit better. Yes, I've been missing you guys too. What has inspired you to run or not run? I will tackle that question. In fact, I'll tell you now, what inspired me to run, very clear. The homicide rate is out of control. The crime rate is out of control. We have someone in the office of the Jefferson County Attorney who obviously is not qualified, if he was ever qualified, to do the job. So I'm applying to you, the voters, 1, to fire him, and 2, hire me. And I know there's another individual in the race, which is a good friend of mine, but this race is about what we've gone through in the last several years. So I want to make sure that you all are clear. I want to make it clear. I'm not going to do it all tonight, but you know, here on Conscious Fever, we're uninhibited. so we can say anything. So from this day forward, every Thursday night, and maybe some other nights during the week, I am going to come on live, and we're going to talk about why we should change the makeup and the whole personnel, most of the personnel in the Jefferson County Attorney's Office. Listen, I am qualified. I'm going to tell you why I'm qualified as I get through this show. But the first thing I want to do before I go too far, I want to say that I want your support, that I won't take your support for granted, and I promise you, I'll be who you all know me to be. Everybody who's ever worked with me in the prosecutor's office know what type of prosecutor I was. Unapologetically, I don't like criminals. Unapologetically, I don't like criminals. I'll say that 10,000 times probably before this campaign is over. I don't like people who victimize other people. I despise them. So now you know some people call me a hater, and that's why, and I accept that. I'm a hater because I hate people who victimize other people. I hate people who victimize little old women walking across the street and snatching their purse and breaking their arms. I've seen all of these cases when I was a prosecutor for 25 years. And for those of you who don't know, I want you to come back. I would love for you to come back. Listen, I'm going to hold you to that. When I get elected county attorney, you need to come back. And you're not going to be, how can I say, you're not going to be, well, you're not going to be writing for David, because in order for me to win, David has to lose, right? But unapologetically, we've got a problem in this city. We've got a problem in this city, and if those who are in office, the leadership in office now, can't handle the problem, they've got to go. And, you know, in this system that we call a democracy, you put them in, you can take them out, right? And it's really just that easy. It's about getting up on May 17th, 2022, this year, a couple of weeks after Derby, after you've wind down from the Kentucky Derby and the festivities this year, and all the fun, and winning all the money, then you get up that morning as early as possible and get in line, because there's going to be a lot of people in line to vote for me. I'm just going to tell you guys that now. And the reason they're going to be voting for me, the reason they're going to be voting for me is because I'm the most qualified person in the race. And I'm going to explain and break that down as we get closer to May 17th, 2022. Neither one of my opponents have been inside the courtroom for 25 years fighting for victims, domestic violence victims. And Gina, you remember this, all those people that came through Warren Court that were victimized, other prosecutors just wouldn't do anything about it. I put them in jail because I hate people who violate other people. So we're going to talk about that tonight, and I hope y'all are on board with that. I don't really like this lighting in tonight, so I may have to take a break and change the light and get this light, that particular light right there, off my face. But in any case, before we do all that, and listen, and I just want to say something to some of the people that I see watching. Listen, I need your support. I really need your support. I need your money, even if it's $1. You know, if 100,000 of y'all will give me $1, I will be fine in this race. Not that I need money. I've got charm more than money, and charm is worth more than money. I really need the vote, right? But, you know, $5, $10, $20 for you rich people, $100, $500, $1,000, $2,000, that would be great for the campaign. Because it's time for a change in this city. I know y'all are just as tired of this as I am, right? Every time you wake up, you go to bed early, you wake up in the morning, there's somebody's murder. And it's likely a young black male, right? But it's not limited to young black males anymore. I mean, 67% of the murders that broke the record last year here in Louisville, only 67% were black males. Y'all don't want to know how many involved spouse abuse, you know? So it really begs the question, what are we doing, if anything? What are we doing, if anything, in this office? I may have been cut off. So listen, if I get cut off, here's what I want y'all to do. Here's what I want y'all to do, because I don't see my chat anymore, and I don't know if it's me. Yeah, I may have been cut off. Facebook may have been cut me off. But listen, yeah, I may have been. But anyway, if I have been cut off, here's what I want y'all to do. Just go to YouTube. I'm on YouTube. I'm doing the same. What you're seeing here, you're seeing on YouTube. But one of the things I want to talk about tonight, I want to talk about what it means to be a prosecutor, because a lot of people really don't know, okay? And so I want to talk about that tonight, right? And you know, when we talk about this, you know, it will probably be within the range of the exaggeration permitted to say that, you know, assembled in a courthouse is one of the most powerful peacetime forces known to our country, right? The prosecutor has more control over life, right, liberty, and reputation than any other person. Did y'all know that? Well, actually, he or she does. His discretion is tremendous. He can have citizens, for instance, investigated. And if he is that kind of person, he can have this done to the tune of public statements and vowed and unvowed limitations. Or the prosecutor may choose a more subtle course and simply have a citizen's friends interviewed. The prosecutor can order arrests, present cases to the grand jury in secret session, and on the basis of his one-sided presentation of the facts, can cause the citizen to be indicted and held for trial. He may dismiss the case before trial, in which case the defense never has a chance to be heard, or he may go on with the public trial. If he obtains a conviction, the prosecutor can still make recommendations as to sentence, as to whether the prisoner should get probation or a suspended sentence, and after he is put away, as to whether he is fit to be paroled. While the prosecutor at his best is one of the most beneficial forces in our society, when he acts from malice or other baseless motives, he is one of the worst. These powers have been granted to our law enforcement agencies because it seems necessary that such a power to prosecute be lodged somewhere. This authority has been granted by people who really wanted the right thing done, wanted crime eliminated, but also wanted the best in our American institutions preserved, right? Now, because of this immense power to strike at citizens, not with mere individual strength, but with all the force of government itself, the post of a district attorney from the very beginning has been safeguarded by presidential appointment, requiring confirmation of the Senate of the United States, for instance, and in most jurisdictions, he or she is thus required to win an expression of confidence and character by voters, by people like you and I. The positions are of such independence and importance that while prosecutors have been diligent, strict, and vigorous in law enforcement, you can also, you can't afford to be just, but you have to be just. Although the government technically loses its case, it has really won if justice has been done, right? The lawyer in public office is justified in seeking to leave behind him a good record, but he must remember that his most alert, severe, but just judges will be the members of his own profession, and that lawyers rest their good opinion of each other not merely on results accomplished, but on the quality of the performance. Right? Now, the reputation has been called the shadow cast by one's daily life. Any prosecutor who risks his day-to-day professional name for fair dealing to build up statistics of success has a perverted sense of practical values, as well as defects of character. Whether one seeks promotion to a judgeship, as many prosecutors rightly do, or whether he returns to private practice, he can have no better asset than to have his profession recognized, that his attitude toward those who feel his power has been dispassionate, reasonable, and just. There's a most important reason why the prosecutor should have, as nearly as possible, a detached and impartial view of all groups in his community. Law enforcement is not automatic. It isn't blind. One of the greatest difficulties One of the greatest difficulties of the position of prosecutor is that he must pick his cases, because no prosecutor can even investigate all of the cases in which he receives complaints. If the Department of Justice or some other prosecutorial agency were to make even a pretense of reaching every probable violation of the law, 10 times its present staff would be inadequate. We now know that no local force can strictly enforce the traffic laws, right? Or it would arrest half the driving population on any given morning. What every prosecutor is practically required to do is to select the cases for prosecution and to select those in which the offense is the most flagrant, the public harm the greatest, and the proof the most certain. If the prosecutor is obliged to choose his cases, it follows that he can choose his defendants, right? And maybe that's what we've seen for the last several years in this community. But therein is the most dangerous power of the prosecutor, that he will pick people that he thinks he should rather than pick cases that need to be prosecuted. With the law books filled with a great assortment of crimes, a prosecutor stands a fair chance of finding at least a technical violation of some law on the part of almost anybody. In such a case, it is not a question of discovering the commission of a crime and then looking for the man who has committed it. It is a question of picking the man and then searching the law books, right? Or putting investigators to work to pin some offense on him. It is in this realm in which the prosecutor picks some person whom he dislikes or desires to embarrass or select some group of unpopular persons and then looks for an offense that the greatest danger, right? And that is the greatest danger of abuse of prosecuting power. And that's where it lies. It is here that law enforcement becomes personal, really personal. And the real crime becomes that of being unpopular with the predominant or governing group, being attached to the wrong political views, or being personally obnoxious to or in the way of the prosecutor himself. In times of fear or hysteria, political, racial, religious, social, and economic groups, often from the best of the motives, cry for the scalps of individuals or groups because they do not like their views. Particularly, do we need to be dispassionate and courageous in those cases which deal with so-called subversive activities? Right? They are dangerous to civil liberty. Civil liberty, because the prosecutor has no definite standards to determine what constitutes a subversive activity, such as we have for murder or larceny, activities which seem benevolent and helpful to wage earners, persons on relief, or those who are disadvantaged in the struggle for existence, may be as subversive by those whose property interests might be burdened or affected thereby. But you know, those who are in office are apt to as subversive the activities of any of those who would bring about a change of administration. Some of our soundest constitutional doctrines were once punished as subversive. We must not forget that it was not so long ago that both the term Republican and the term Democrat were epithets with sinister meaning to denote persons of radical tendencies that were subversive of the order of things then dominant. Listen, y'all, let me just put this way. The qualities of a good prosecutor are as elusive and as impossible to define as those which mark a gentleman. And those who need to be told will not understand it anyway. All right, the sensitivities to fair play and sportsmanship is perhaps the best protection against abuse of power, and the citizen's safety lies in the prosecutor whose tempers and zeal with human kindness, who seeks truth and not victims, who serves the law and not factional purposes, and who approaches his task with humility. Okay? Now, you probably wonder why I said that, right? Because I understand that. This was something that was written by Robert Jackson, I think, back in 1940. And I understand that. I understand exactly what he was talking about. And if you don't understand that, you should not be a candidate for the office of district attorney. Right? So, I want to know what y'all think. I saw some questions here, and I can't see them anymore, but I'm going to try to see them again. Okay, here we go. One is too many. I've shared a lot. Where do we send the money? Oh, Valerie Bell, thank you. Listen, we are going to be putting up the website. The website is going to be carlpriceforcountyattorney.com. And in the next few days or so, or actually next week, we should be able to do that. I'm just lazy. It's hard for me to talk about myself. I know that y'all find that hard to believe, right? I come on this show almost every week. I've done it for like 5 years, and it's hard for me to talk about myself. But I'm going to tell you that. Hey, Tim Smith, and I saw some other people here. My question, too, to whom do we send money? Thank you, Sam. Listen, I'm going to tell y'all who to send money. This is why I didn't want to talk about this until that donate button was active on the website. But listen, I'm going to give y'all that information, but I really want to talk about some other things that I think is really important for us here in this community. I want to talk about Quintez Brown, and I want to talk about bail cash, cash bail, and I want y'all to participate in this because this is a hot topic. I want to give a statement on Quintez Brown and the whole ideal of cash bail. And the whole system of bail and, as opposed to bail bonds, et cetera, because one of my opponents in this county attorney race actually, a couple of them have made a statement about it. But I want y'all to really understand the essence of Quintez Brown, because I'm going to tell you one thing I'm going to do in this race that my opponents are not going to do. I'm going to speak the truth, and I'm going to put it right into your face, right? And when I'm side by side with them, I'm going to speak the truth, and I'm going to challenge them to speak it back. And if they don't, I'm going to call them on it. You know why? Because I think that that's what y'all expect me. In fact, I know that's what y'all expect me to do. So yes, I'm running for county attorney. I like it. And there's many reasons I'm running for county attorney. I'm going to tell y'all. One, because I feel that I am your candidate for county attorney. When you think about going to the polls and voting, as we go through this campaign season, this is a very short campaign season because I'm running as a Democrat, as you can see. The primary is a short period of time away, right? It's May 17th. It's just a few months away, right? So we have to get all this stuff out and talk to people and convince people of who we are. But I want each of you to know that I am your candidate. When you vote for me, you are voting for yourself for this office. Okay, I want to make sure that everybody understands that when you vote for me, you're voting for yourself, right? And I'm not talking about just black folks. Okay, yes, if you elect me your next county attorney, I will be the first black county attorney ever elected in Jefferson County, right? And for a lot of reasons, I'm anxious. But I don't want you to go to the polls and say, I'm going to I'm going to vote for him because he's black. Because you see what happened with Danny Cameron, right? Some people did that, and look what we're stuck with, right? But I want you all to, let me see, I got to go back here, y'all. I'm doing something wrong here. Okay. I want y'all to do it because I'm qualified to do it, because because really I am your candidate. Let me tell you why. I spent 25 years as a prosecutor, actually more than 25 years as a prosecutor, right? And when I say I was 25 years as a prosecutor, I was in almost every division. Gina will tell you that. I was almost in every division. And I just have this, for some reason, I have developed in my lifetime, probably a little bit before I joined the prosecutor's office, but definitely while I was in the prosecutor's office, this distaste for individuals who violate other people. And I mean that if you've ever been violated, that is a feeling that is like no other. I know people who are afraid to be stuck with needles. That feeling of being violated is worse. You've ever been sexually abused, ever been physically abused, right? And I don't speak from experience, but I speak from those and through those people whose hands I held that were going through that, right? I'm gonna share a story with y'all about what I mean. Because when I was a prosecutor, first of all, as a prosecutor, you see almost everything and you experience almost everything. And one of the things that I experienced that I would never forget, it's pinned on my brain forever. what happens is when you work, for instance, I was a domestic violence prosecutor for a number of years, and when you work in domestic violence, you lose people. These people come to you as strangers, but they leave you as somebody that was victimized, a human being, right? And often in this game of cat and mouse and criminal litigation, especially when you're dealing with human beings and human lives, you lose some people. So I had a young lady who was assaulted. She was assaulted twice. She was assaulted one by this guy, her boyfriend, who was madly in love with her. And I'm going to just cut right to the chase in talking about this story. And one of the things that I'm going to tell you about is this. Is that what she did was she really wanted to get away from him. And her mother knew that she wanted to get away from him. So the case gets assigned to me. I have the case. I'm talking with the detectives, and all of a sudden they tell me there was another warrant that was filed 2 weeks before the warrant that I had, right? And it's an outstanding arrest warrant for this young man. So, of course, I move forward. I asked the judge to execute the arrest warrant. And the reason I did that is because, we all have to listen to our gut, right? And my gut told me that that was a dangerous relationship and something really bad was going to happen. So fast forward, we go out, we argue before the judge. The judge, in her infinite wisdom, although I disagreed, she let the man walk out the door. I appealed the judge because the judge should have taken the man into custody, should have ordered the sheriff to take him into custody because he had an outstanding arrest warrant. A second warrant on this same woman that he had battered before. They walk out. I appeal him. The appeal comes back. I win the appeal. The judge in the higher court reinstates the warrant. Says, arrest that guy. The warrant gets lost in the clerk's office for about 2 weeks. And unfortunately, when the detectives and I began asking about the warrant, they asked me, I said, listen, we won that case on appeal. The warrant is back down. The warrant is somewhere. It needs to be served on him. The next day, it broke on the news. He strangled her. Right? And I knew this was going to happen because that was my gut. And you know why it was my gut? Because we offered that man 12 months to serve in jail. And that man agreed to take 12 months. But we had one additional condition, and that condition was you cannot have any contact with this woman. And he said, I'll take the 12 months, but I will not agree not to have any contact. That was a red flag. A few weeks later, she was dead. So that's the real life of being a prosecutor, right? I enjoy the reputation. I'm just going to give y'all this introduction so y'all know who you're dealing with and who I am and who I will be as a candidate, right? Because I'm apologetically tough. But I had a reputation as one of Kentucky's toughest prosecutors, right? And I have some friends who say, oh, man, that's not a good thing to have, until you lose somebody, until you become a victim. And then you realize how important that is. Let me talk to just those who understand what's going on in the black community. I mean, the stats tell us that black people are more victimized from crime than any group of people. And for some reason, we don't embrace prosecutors and we don't embrace law enforcement. I get it. Sometimes there's some law enforcement officers that are really bad. But I just have to say that because I think that's important. And people, listen, we've got to get tough on crime. We can't just tell those of us who are running for office to be tough on crime. And by the way, I'm probably the toughest one on crime in this race. My two opponents are nowhere close to tough as I am. And I'll challenge them on that if we ever have a debate. But it's time for a change. It's time for new leadership. My reputation is one of Kentucky's toughest prosecutors. Listen, you don't have to listen to me. Go out into your community. Go to work tomorrow. And ask somebody who knows anybody in the courthouse or anything about anybody in law enforcement and say, what do you know about Carl Price? And I bet they would repeat the same thing. Because I don't like people who victimize other people. And I don't like people who let it happen, right? I.e. our leaders, these people who call themselves district attorneys, right? And these people who says, I've been in this office for 15 years and this is what I've done. You ain't done shit. I'm just going to call it like it is. You ain't done shit. Because if you had done what you're supposed to do, then we won't have the highest homicide rate. at a percentage rate higher than cities like Chicago and Philadelphia. Check it out. The stats are out there. I know y'all say, well, we haven't had 500 people killed. No, we haven't. But if you look at the rate in Louisville is higher. Was higher in 21 than it was in those cities. And you know what's going on in those cities. No, we got to get tough. We got to get tough on crime. So I'm not ashamed. I would never apologize. And I'm not apologetic to that reputation and what people said. Also, Lee Firearms prosecutor. What's going on in our DA's office today? There are guns everywhere. There's more guns out there than there are potato chips, right? And you know how some people like Grippos, right? It's a lot of them. I used to be the lead firearms prosecutor, and I respect the hunter. I respect those who love the Second Amendment, although y'all know that I have a little different view sometimes of the interpretation of the Second Amendment. But how do we do this? How do we live in a community and feel that it's okay for juveniles, right? I mean, for juveniles. Listen to me, y'all, for juveniles to be okay possessing firearms. When I was little, if we found a gun, we never picked it up. We just ran away from it. And we went home and we told our parents, there's a gun in that field over there. But today, the teenagers will pick it up, put it in their waist, and the first thing that will come to their mind is, we can rob somebody because we have a gun. I don't know, I see your question. I'm going to address this here. Running for office is great, but what ideal? Actually, somewhere I can see that, right? I got to go to the comments. But I like that. Listen, I am gonna go back, go here to the comments. Y'all just bear with me here, right? This is fantastic news. Thank you, Pete Palmer. I'm glad you think it's fantastic news because I do too. I don't know what I've done. I know there are some things that I have to do, and I don't know how to do it. So I'm gonna go back to where I was. But really, y'all. Okay, go away, Pete Palmer. Okay, thank you. But this ideal that we have all of these guns out there, and everybody, and it just seems to be okay. How many of y'all remember that when a child rode a bicycle down the street, the only fear that child had, and this is when we took the training wheels off, right? Y'all remember that? You could ride the bike down the street if you lived on a long city block or wherever you lived. If the block was long, you could ride it, maybe cross an alley or something, maybe a hump in the sidewalk. But the only fear you had when mommy or daddy took the training wheels off was that you would fall. Today, these kids can't even go to the school bus stop without ducking bullets. Listen, y'all, heat rises to the top. So this is on our leadership. For the last 2 years, and Louisville is on pace to break the homicide record once again. So what would I do? Alvin, let me tell you what would I do. What I would do. There are things that many of you all don't see that internally are going on in these DA offices that they never tell you about. Right? A lot of these DA offices, they just do enough to satisfy the media so the media won't ask questions. Seriously, that's what they do. And that's going to bring me to my discussion before I get off of here about Quintez Brown and what the prosecutor's office should have done. Some might disagree with me, and I don't care about that, but that's just the way it is. But listen, we have a problem with guns in this community, okay? And I don't know if it's the culture that has changed or if it's just from the courtroom, we have tolerated it so much, right? When somebody comes in and they have been in illegal possession of a firearm and we just let them walk out the door. Yeah, we let them walk out the door. What do you think the message is to them? Oh, that's okay. You know, that's just like going to the principal's office and coming home. No. And that's probably why they would always say that I was a tough prosecutor, because I just believe that you needed to have some accountability, right? When you did something that you were not supposed to do as a teenager in the 70s, in the 60s and the 70s, you got your ass whooped. And when you got your ass whooped, you thought about twice, 3 times and 4 times about not doing it again. If we can institute that in our court system, maybe something would change. Now listen, the bad apples are going to be the bad apples. On the street, in the police department, in the courthouse, corruption in the DA's office, in the county attorney's, that's all going to be there. And you can't, a lot of times you can't change that. However, we can start. So that's one of the things that I would do. That's one of the things that I would do, because accountability is important. And listen, and it's not a one-way street. It's not a one. I want y'all to understand something. It's not a one-way street. If you cause a criminal complaint to be filed against somebody and it is a lie or it is inappropriate, your ass should go to jail. Period. You should go to jail, because now you have brought somebody into court claiming that you're the victim when in fact they're the victim of your lies. That's a little bit different. And my opponents won't talk about that because nobody wants to touch that. But what's right is right and what's wrong is wrong. And the only way you can ever curtail it, Alvin, the only way you can ever curtail it, only way, is to make sure that people are held accountable for it. I mean, period. Right? They told me I was one of Louisville's most feared domestic violence prosecutors. Maybe I was, but I'm going to say something about domestic violence. Yeah, absolutely go to jail. Wendy, I like that. I like that. Being back to Rocket Docket. Rocket Docket really didn't. Well, you know what Rocket Docket really is, Mike? Let me tell you what Rocket Docket really is. Ain't nobody really got no serious time in Rocket Docket, right? Because Rocket Docket was designed to speed the process up, right? And that's the prosecutor giving up something. The prosecutor that's the prosecutor gaining the speed and expediency to get the case resolved. And if the prosecutor is giving up something, they have to give something to the defendant, right? Just think about that. So that's what Rocket Docket is all about. And it works in some cases. But understand, with Rocket Docket, you're giving up something. When you take that case to a jury, you may get 20 more years. But when you go to Rocket Docket, you may get 20 less. So, to me, Rocket Docket was a joke. We need to have someone that would be willing to talk and communicate with the citizens. Hey, that's me, Arlene. That's me. I want to come and talk to everybody, because y'all need to know what's going on. And you need to have somebody in office who is going to share with you all of those gut-wrenching secrets that they don't want to tell you. I'll get into that on another podcast. On another podcast. But prosecutors with too much sympathy are just criminal defense attorneys in disguise. People, but listen, we need to take back our streets. We need to take back our towns. And I'm not talking the city and here in Louisville. I'm not talking West Louisville. It's all over. It's in every zip code, right? Yeah, zip code. 40272, 40258, right? 40216, 40210, 40211, 40241, 4243. It's everywhere. And I know everybody wants to be safe. You got to have somebody in there that's going to keep you safe. What we have in office now, obviously, people, they're not doing that. They're not doing that. So listen, I want to be unapologetically about this. I don't want to apologize about being tough on crime. Some of you all listening tonight, I'm sure that you all if either you've been a victim of a crime or you know somebody that's been a victim of a crime. But I want to share something with y'all about the domestic violence, because this was something, I want to go back to that one, because this was something that I experienced in domestic violence. And I remember a news report about me. Now I'm going to talk about same-sex relationships for a second, right? I remember a news report from this reporter. Is it okay if I just call him an asshole? Am I okay with doing that, y'all? right? Because y'all know I'm going to be one of those candidates that's just going to call people out. I'm not going to bite my tongue. I mean, why should I, right? Why should I bite my tongue? But anyway, but this person wrote an article strictly based on hearsay, right? Because all reporters, everything they write is on hearsay, right? And basically the essence of the article, the whole point of the article was, this prosecutor working in the Jefferson County Attorney's Office is prosecuting these people because they were gay, right? And, that man, Donald Trump, right, when he said, fake media, I don't agree with him on that, but I will tell you that there are a lot of abuses in the media, right? Because I remember that story coming out and it was somewhere like conspicuous in the newspaper. But when the end result, when they discovered that that was not true, they never printed anything in the newspaper, right? Let me tell you what bothered me about that. What bothered me about that is that, and Gina, you can appreciate this. What bothered me about that was that, you know what, y'all, I have no idea why my comments are not coming on. So I need to make sure, because I want to post your comments here. It's always something. Anyway, number 45 never says his name. Right. But listen, but here's why that bothered me. I'm going to tell you all why that bothered me. One, because, and I'm not going to get too personal with my family, but I would tell you that I knew about trans women since I was like 12 years old, right? And it was not elective. It was just in the family, right? So when I read that article, and I remember my mother was interested. I lost my mother last January, and my mother was interested. My mother used to keep articles. There was an article this was the article that I found in her papers when she passed away, and I always wondered why she kept that article. And it was probably because, there was somebody trans in our family, early on when we were very, very young. We didn't understand it. We didn't know. We just knew she was auntie, right? But what bothered me about that article was this, and I want y'all to follow me on this. When I came into the domestic violence unit in the Jefferson County Attorney's Office, it was a time where everybody thought it was okay to put their hands on women and have no accountability, and I mean that. I mean the judges were mostly white males, okay, and that's not an indictment of the white male judges, especially today, but they were a different breed back then, and I'm talking the mid-'90s, late '90s, okay, but it was almost like it was the norm to come in and give a man a fine just because he put his hands on a woman. It was even worse for same-sex couples, right? We're talking the late '90s. There's a lot more acceptance today than it was then, right? A lot more acceptance today than it was then. And what bothered me about that article was that I was one of the few prosecutors who would prosecute domestic violence in same-sex relationships. Some of the other prosecutors, not all of them, some of the other prosecutors thought that it was just a sham. I mean, the homophobic slurs that they were using in the back hallways about those cases just blew me away. And so when I went, and I hope I'm not being too convoluted, but when I saw that article, when I saw that accusation, I just thought it was a joke, because I was the only one, right? I was told that I was an outcast. Why are you putting so much time in that case? Why are you doing this? Those are just two men. Those are just two women, right? These are the hypocrites in the courthouse, and this is why we need new leadership, because some of that hypocritical shit is still there. And that's why we need new leadership there. But it bothered me. It bothered me because when you put 1,000% in these cases, regardless of what their characteristics are, and then somebody accuse you of something that is totally opposite of what your character is in handling those cases, it gets under your skin. So anyway, listen, let me move on to something. I want to talk about this. I want to just make a statement, my official statement on Quintez Brown and the cash bail. And you all know Quintez Brown. Listen, for those of you who are outside of the jurisdiction, let me just give you a 30-second introduction. Quintez Brown is a young man here, apparently a very, very gifted young man who came into possession of a couple of firearms, at least 2 firearms, according to the reports, according to the police reports, and a great deal of ammunition, and walked into a campaign headquarters and asked where a particular candidate was, a candidate who's running for mayor, and individual said, "I am he." And according to the reports, he pointed and started shooting, and there were other people of the campaign, from the campaign staff in there, and he was charged. We have weak people who in office who blame racism and white supremacy for violence. It is our community. It's about time somebody be candid about this problem. People call me names. I wish I could post this up here, y'all. I don't know why I can't post it. Oh, y'all gonna kill me, but I should be able to post that up there. Can't believe that. Anyway, listen. But he came in and he shot, and then the police pieced together some evidence from the video, because individuals who engage in this type of behavior are always either not all there in the brain, or they really don't understand that there's cameras everywhere around us today, right? If I want to piece together what you did last week, I could probably do it by getting cameras from every place that you passed, right? Outside of a building, in a grocery store, nail salon, all of that. But in any case, that's what he did. And so the question was about his bond. And I know one of my opponents, and I spoke to the media because I'm an expert on a legal expert on one of the local news stations, and they called me and I said, listen, I think his bond should have been $500,000, not because we should have high bonds and keep people in, but because I truly believe that somebody who walks into a place and asks for a particular person and then starts to fire at him, I believe that person is dangerous, right? Regardless of why that person did that and why he was there. I mean, that's dangerous. And you have to understand that in court, the standard is this person dangerous? And if this person is dangerous, right, that is a reason to keep that person away from law-abiding citizens. I mean, period, right? So we can have a debate all night long about whether he should have had a bond, whether his bond should have been lowered, or whether his bond should have been higher. I think his bond should have been higher because I think it was dangerous. Now, the other part of this, and this is the most important part of this, and this is something that I'm going to be talking about on the campaign trail a great deal, is that while we talk about bonds, maybe his bond should have been $500,000 cash. And before I talk about this, let me just tell you, let me just say this. Somebody said that this was on the judge. I don't agree with that. This was on the prosecutors. And this is what I'm talking about when we talk about Mike O'Connell's office. The prosecutor only asked for $100,000 full cash bond. Now, we can debate that and say, well, $100,000 is a lot of money because if it's a $10 bond and you can't make it, it's a lot of money. And then we can talk about the bail project and how they posted the bond, all of that. Okay. But what I'm saying is that if you believe that the individual is dangerous, why would you only request a bond of $100,000? Now, I want you to keep the other piece of this in context, right? Apparently, there was some suggestion that maybe mentally he was not there, or maybe he was having an episode. And that's fair, right? Because everybody is innocent until they are proven guilty, right? Even at that stage, as a suspect, as a criminal defendant, until you're convicted, you're entitled to all these constitutional rights. And so is Quintez Brown, even though the allegations seem to suggest, or the facts seem to be undisputed, that he walked in there, pointed a gun and shot. But the problem is that we can talk about, and first of all, it wasn't on the judge. It was the prosecutor. The prosecutor should have asked for a higher bond. But even if they had posted the bond, here's the problem. Even if the bond was $500,000, they posted the bond. Here's the problem. The problem is, in the criminal justice system, we have no process to deal with the mentally ill. Now, we can talk about whether he is or whether he isn't. We have no process in place to deal with the mentally ill. And everybody knows that. There have been courts like drug courts downtown. There have been courts like the Veterans Court and all of that. And the reality is that they are really just an extension of undiagnosed mental illnesses somewhere there. So, I was out at a campaign event a couple of nights ago, I think election night for the special election. And one of the things that I was talking about to a nurse that I introduced myself to was that we need you in court. I mean, we're hurdling people through. We're hurting people through, charging them and locking them up, and we have no idea what their state of mind is unless they say something or do something in court that says, then we talk about this rule or this statute 504. That just means that, you go and you have them evaluated, hold them in a mental institution for a little bit and have them evaluated. But the problem is we have no intervention. We have no opportunity in the court system at the early stages of a case to address the undiagnosed mental condition of the criminal defendants that come through, of the defendants that come through there. And that's the problem. And I'm going to tell y'all, I'm going to be talking about this on the campaign because it's fixable. It's fixable, right? We know people, we know those who are normal. We know those who are acting a little odd. So this is not a secret, right? People know this. If you've been around your brother a long time, you've been around your spouse a long, you know this. You know that, it's something odd. But when they get into the system, we read the allegations in the citation and say, this person is dangerous. And listen, I believe that act that he's alleged to have done is dangerous. And I would have requested a higher bond. However, I would also have had a conversation with his defense attorney who said on the record that he might have an issue in his mind. I would have sat down with that defense attorney and said, how can we confirm that? Right? Because I want y'all to think about this a second. If there is really something going on with this young man, he doesn't need to be in jail. He doesn't need to be detained, right? He needs to be receiving treatment. And he doesn't need to be receiving treatment under these archaic statutes that keep you in jail for like 6 months before they determine, oh yeah, he's okay, or he's not okay. That's all I'm saying. So what I'm really saying to y'all is that there's a lot that we can do in the system, but we have to do it on the front end. In Kentucky, you can only hold a person on a felony charge for 10 days before you have to let them go. Okay, or you have to release the bond. We have to develop some way to test, retest, and understand the mental condition of everybody who comes through there. Maybe y'all don't know this, but all the lawyers that are listening, y'all know this. Back in the early 1900s, if you committed a murder, or if you committed a rape, right, or if you strangled somebody, even if they didn't die, you automatically was forced to take have a mental evaluation. Because back then that behavior was considered to be so abhorrent. My words are messing up tonight. But that behavior is considered to be so out of the ordinary and so abnormal that they did it automatically. We have gotten away from that. And the reason we've gotten away from that because we used to work on a rehabilitative system, now we work on a punitive system. So when I talk about being tough on crime and stuff like that, it also includes this element of making sure that we're not putting the sick in jail. Because what happens, you put the sick in the jail, they don't know they're sick, you don't know they're sick, you just punish them, and then they come out, they're still sick, might be even sicker. I might have met somebody that was just as sick as they were, and then they have come caught at this big plan to go out and do sick things to normal people. That's all I'm saying. Anyway, y'all, I can go on. I wish they should have ordered a mental health evaluation. I agree. I completely agree. Let's see. Truth on mental illness. Thank you, Alvin Brown. Yeah, listen, y'all. I mean, I've been on my hour. My hour is about to come up because we came on at 9:30. But listen, I want y'all to know that. I want y'all to know right here. That's me. I'm running for county attorney, and you know, and I don't want y'all to think that I'm joking about this. That I may sound like this. This is not a joke to me. I contemplated doing it the last election cycle, and I decided that I was just having too much fun practicing law, and I'm still having fun practicing law. But I just can't sit around and do nothing, knowing that these damn people in office are just taking this shit for granted. Yeah, I said it. They're taking it for granted. And then everybody wants to come back. What do you want to come back for? I mean, why do you want the office? That's all I was saying. Why do you want to stay in there? There's a lot of other things I'm going to talk about, okay? And listen, I'm going to tell y'all something about this campaign. This is probably going to be the most electrifying race you're going to see this year in Jefferson County, if not the state of Kentucky, right? Because some of these candidates have tried to take a swipe at me already. And y'all know I'm like a pit bull. You swing, I'm not going to do anything. I'm just like a poodle until you swing at me. Then I become a pit bull. And I'm going to talk about all those things that all the other candidates in the past year should have talked about. And they didn't, right? Because in this election, we're all out for blood. And at the end of the day, the winner is the one who bleeds less. All right, listen, this is Conscious Fever. I am Carl Price. I want to thank y'all for joining me tonight. I hope y'all have had as much fun as I've had. Maybe you have, maybe you haven't. But listen, thanks for joining me. Get those shirts. Yep, I'm going to get those shirts. Keep it real, KP. I will. Do your thing. Keith Hunter, thank you. And my condolences, man, for the loss of your mom. I heard you talk about her so much, you know, man. But anyway, you need to talk, man. Let me know. I lost mine last January, and I've still yet to recover. And I wish she was here. I know she would be a nervous wreck. Like, are you doing that? Why are you doing that? Well, you know. But you know, even though my mother would, if she were alive, she would be saying, "Well, are you sure that's something you want to do?" And oh boy, she would say all of that. But at the end of the day, she would tell all of her little old lady friends, you know, my son's running for county attorney and you should vote for him. And that's what I loved about my mother. She voiced her concern, but at the end of the day, if you were determined that you were going to do it, you were going to get on that wagon and ride. She was going to say, okay, pick me up, and I'm going to ride with you. So anyway, I miss her dearly. But listen, y'all, thanks for joining me tonight. I will be back. You had to come back after how they tried to smear your name. Take what's yours. Yeah, that belongs to me, Dr. Pruitt. That belongs to me. And you know I haven't forgotten that. I haven't forgotten that. Then what they really wanted me to, they wanted me to apologize. I don't know if y'all know the whole story, but they wanted me to apologize about some stuff I didn't do. I was about to say something, but it was going to be really, really insensitive, so I can't say it. I'll say it on the campaign trail, so I want y'all to come out. But listen, the website is going to be up. The donate button is going to be there, and I really want y'all to express the fact that y'all appreciate that I'm in this race by giving some money. You know, we're going to do it a little bit different. I mean, I don't want to be too negative, but you know, but if there's only negative stuff out there about a candidate, I got to share it with y'all. I can't hold back on it. I can't do that. I'll be doing a disservice to y'all. If y'all want the crime rate to go down, I'm the man. Okay. I got to say this. I want y'all to know I'm a hater. I hate criminals. I hate people who violate other people. I hate people who steal from other people. You ever had that feeling you come out and your car windows are broken and people around, you know, they've gone through your car, or you come home and your house has been burglarized? That's the worst damn feeling in the world. Understand, you put me in the district attorney's office, you're putting yourself in there. Anyway, I am Carl Price. This is Conscious Fever. And I am your candidate for Jefferson County Attorney. Please, 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 please don't forget that. I'll be back next week, if not before. But I'm going to use this platform to really talk about what I'm going to do. So it's not going to be, and I'm going to talk about my opponents because I want y'all to know. I want y'all to know the things I think that are good, which are very few. And I want y'all to know all the things that I think are bad. That's a lot. I want y'all to know where the corruption lies. and why it's been hidden from y'all for so long. And I want y'all to know how to get it. You know, I can ask for it, but they're not going to give it to me, but I know how to find it. Because remember, I was in that inner circle. All that stuff that I was privy to, I still have. And I'm going to share it with y'all before this thing is all over. Thank you, Dr. Pruitt. I am so sorry tonight. You know, y'all, the essence of this show is to share comments. I don't know if Facebook has done something to the comments, or maybe it's some setting that I haven't set right here. But in any case, it is what it is. Listen, I'm Carl Price. This has been Conscious Fever here on ICE Entertainment Television, still in Conscious Fever Radio. We are in a new location. I love it to death. I love it, love it, love it, love it, love it. And we're gonna come back strong, and we're gonna do this. But definitely, I want to be your next county attorney, and I don't take that for granted. And I don't want you all to take that for granted. And I don't want y'all to think just because I'm black and I'm running and this is the post George Floyd thing. No, I'm qualified. In fact, I'm the most qualified. Your toughest prosecutor. I'm Carl Price. Next week. See you then.
You are listening to Conscious Fever, hosted by Carl Price on 97thebeatfm.com.
I was born by the river in a little tent. Like the river I've been running ever since. It's been a long time coming, but I know a change gonna come. Oh, yes, it will. It's been too hard living, but I'm afraid to die. 'Cause I don't know what's up there beyond the sky. It's been a long time coming, but I know a change gonna come. Oh, yes, it is. Then I go to my brother. And I say, brother, help me please. But he wind up knocking back down on the knees. Oh, there've been times that I thought I couldn't last for long, but now I think I'm able, Father, to carry on. And it's been a long time coming, but I know a change gonna come. Oh, yes it is. Yes it is. Yes it is. Said I know that a change is gonna come one day. I know a change